Hey everybody, this is David Skrika. Beautiful day here. So, what we're going to talk about today is going to be something unique. It's not going to be a chart per se. Maybe I'll put a chart underneath on the website of like home prices in the States or Canada. So what I want to talk about today is something that's kind of interesting because, you know, I had my ex-girlfriend was from Colombia, and anyhow, and she's pretty poor and all that sort of thing. So, my ex-girlfriend is from there. So I just don't want to point the camera at these kids. I don't want them thinking I'm some kind of pervert, you know. So my ex-girlfriend was from Colombia, like I said, and she's anyhow, and you know, she lived in a little apartment. It cost a few $100s a month, all that sort of thing, you know. And when I was looking at, one day I just started to look at real estate prices in Medellin. You know, I figured all these apartments would be $50,000 or $60,000. This average person in Colombia makes like $5,000 a year or something, you know. And I was shocked they were like $200,000 or $300,000. And even the nicer areas of Buenos Aires, you know, and Argentina has been ravaged by hyperinflation. It was the same way, because I have a couple friends who live in Buenos Aires. You know, they know who they are. They watch the videos. The two of my subscribers too. So, anyhow, then I thought to myself, well, that means in these countries, and you can't really get credit in these countries too, that really real estate is, you know, for rich people. You know, and or for upper middle class. You know, and if the average person makes 1/40th what an apartment costs, how can they ever afford one? They're going to be renting these little apartments in whatever, Bogota, Cartagena, Cali, Medellin, their whole life. So now I look at what's going on in North America, and it's like, in a place like Canada, for example, the average home price is, you know, $1 million to about $2 million even in Toronto, and really a nice house in Vancouver will cost you $3 million. So again, especially with interest rates more normalized now, I think to myself, how can the average person really afford this? So, you know, I think about that, and so that, you know, and I'm just like, well, whatever, you know, it is what it is, you know. It's just like, we are, in my opinion, it's almost becoming like Colombia or Argentina, like these third world countries, where owning real estate or owning assets is for rich people, and then the masses just have to rent these little apartments. And also in Toronto, what's happening is interesting, is they did something with the building boom. So what they did in the building boom was, so what they did in the building boom, sorry, I am losing train of thought from time to time because it is hot out here, and I forgot to put my bottle of water in my bag. All I have is ice in there, so I basically had to suck in a few cubes of ice, and that's what I'll have to do before I walk home. So you can see it's beautiful. Even here in this deeper beach, you know, we still got those turquoise waters. So anyhow, so Toronto, they were building these little mini apartments, and those ones won't sell because people don't want to live in these little 400 square foot boxes. So, but that's all, like, those are the kind of apartments you can still get for a few $100,000, right? So that's the real issue. Look, I even see it here to a certain extent. It's not as bad here, but, you know, I don't know if I can afford my house now. You know, I bought it for $350. By the way, I just paid my property tax. You know, it's property tax I paid for you suckers in Canada. I paid $200. Okay. So, you know, it's probably worth a lot more than that now. I saw a little house that's like a shack basically across or down the road from me, selling for $300. You know, so and again, with interest rates higher, etc., it's more, affordability is worse. So it's like, to me, this whole thing we've set up, where a lot of the wealth effect and the economic growth, especially in places like in Canada and Australia and UK, more than the US, because the US has a little more industry and a little more things going on. But you know, still housing was a big part of it in the US, big part of their economy was set up on people, you know, buying houses in Toronto, London, you know, Sydney, Melbourne, wherever they are, and then Vancouver, and then riding the real estate wave up, and they would remain a little bit affordable because rates were near zero. And then people thought rates could never go up and housing prices could never go down, and of course that did not happen. And actually housing prices really haven't gone down, so and I think affordability is now worse since the early 1980s, which is kind of interesting because people act like baby boomers had it easy, but the early 1980s when my dad bought a home, okay, the home prices were, you know, a tenth of what they were now, or a fifth, but you know, a mortgage rate was 15%. So yeah, you know, it kind of evened out, and you made a lot less money, right? Like $100,000 was a lot of money back then. It isn't now because of inflation. So I decided to end on that note, just talking about housing and affordability, what have we done in society, etc. You know, and you're going to see, you know, you're seeing what's going on in Britain now with kind of these two factions, you know, and I think you're going to, especially if the economy gets worse, people lose jobs, you know, combined with this affordability and inflation, and you know, and don't get me wrong, those issues are for real with illegal immigration and you know, that sort of thing. But I also think that's an offshoot because the kind of working class feels, you know, like they've been betrayed and their standard of living is nowhere near what it was, and this is like all an offshoot of that, right? So I ended off on that note. Hey man, I'm here. I can't sweat that stuff too much, but I you know, obviously even living here, I can't live in a total bubble. And you know, I have a UK passport. The British took in my family after the war. You know, I have, well, just due respect to my American friends, I probably have more an affliction and affinity for Brits in the UK than I do the US. And you know, and by the way, modern day food, the whole thing where UK food is bad, that's a myth now. Actually, food in the UK is better than it is US now. And I'm not just talking about going to a good Indian restaurant as well. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that because I want to turn around and have to suck on a few ice cubes and then walk home. Actually, speaking of UK, Leeds, my team is playing in the Carabao Cup today. We're playing Middlesbrough. So this was always going to be a